Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ladies of the PGS. It's RM here, and I am here with Lorena Creole. Hello, Lorena. How are you tonight?
And hello everyone in the chat. I am doing great, doing wonderful, and so excited to be here yet again on Ladies of the PGS.
Well, I am so excited to have you here, Lorena. And there's so much to talk about that's going on. Certainly, this week it just seems so unbelievable. Lorena, it's finally here. Something that I guess pretty much we've all been waiting for because it feels like forever since we have had anything, or at least any kind of, dare I say, closure or any kind of acknowledgement of Black Panther, more or less, and everything that's happened. And it's not an ordinary situation, as that, I mean, we're really kind of looking at this film to do more than just be a superhero film. And I think that creates a very unique situation with this film. I mean, I've never been in a situation where we're waiting for something, and certainly so much is involved with this film. It's a special situation. Have you ever seen anything like this, Lorena? In regards to just how everything that's happened in associated with the film.
hmm Not that I can recall. I can't recall there being a like the start of a franchise with a titular character like Black Panther. I've never seen that happen, and then you lose the lead actor, and you don't it's not like you lose him under, like say someone's like say in their 90s and they die of natural causes. No. Chadwick Boseman, he kept all of that under wraps. Hardly anybody knew. So that when he wound up passing away, it just left such a deep hole in everything, emotionally. What's going to happen to the character? Are they going to recast the character? Just what's going to happen, and how is this going to be handled? I really do not recall a movie being in a situation like this.
Yeah, it really is very different. And, like we're both discussing here, we've never seen anything like this before. Certainly not a superhero film. Boseman did have that kind of impact. Honestly, he really kind of changed things for a lot of us in regards to just how cool and fantastic this man was as an actor, how great he played the character.
hmm
He's an incredibly talented individual. And ironically enough, because of what he did for the film, and also, let's say, the collective work of everybody involved in that first film, certainly we had a unique experience. And you know I'm certainly not going to say that the film, it's just so that everybody is aware. Wakanda does not actually exist. It is a place in fantasy, in the
Right.
genre. And I've seen a lot of people kind of like talk about the politics of it, and I thought to myself, well, I guess you could talk about the politics and everything. And we're just kind of looking at a few shots of the new film. But to be honest with you, the thing that appealed to me really was just the effort and work that went into making the film, and the beautiful performances that we had in Black Panther. I'll never forget how cool it was to watch it, and how wonderful the actors were in it. So for me personally, and I'm sure you feel this way, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way, it was such a unique and great experience. And it almost, oh wow, we got a super sticker. Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
Hey, Punk Trace.
How are you, Punk Trace? Thank you so much for the 99 cents. Oh, it's a candy corn. It's a little
Candy.
candy corn. Thank you
Let's
so
see.
much.
He's got it is a smiley with devil horns. That's the
Thank
one that Punk Trace
Thank you so much,
likes to
Lorena. I
do it.
couldn't see, I can't see it, but thank you so much for doing that, Punk Trace. We so appreciate your generosity. It's
Yes.
so nice to see you here tonight, and everybody else in the chat. And of course, we're talking about Black Panther and Wakanda. You cannot separate the two of them, as far as I'm concerned, Lorena. It's also
Mhm.
very unique in that regard. We can't separate them, and we know that in the movie, let's say the one that they've just come out with, Wakanda Forever, that they indicated, or at least gave us the impression that they're not going to separate them, because from what we're seeing, and I'm trying to get to the maybe just the just the main page, but from what we've seen, honestly, Lorena, it seems to indicate that there is some sort of dedication to T'Challa, and that's to be expected, I guess, in a sense. But you and I were talking about this. It's coming out this week, Lorena. Do you think that the marketing for this film has been what it should be for Wakanda Forever?
That is an excellent question. I don't think it's been the worst, but I also don't think that it's been the best either. And there is a challenge considering how they have set this up, with obviously Shuri taking over as Black Panther. That is very, very obvious where they've done that. I don't think the marketing has been, I want to say, all that great. You see, drop-ins for, I forget which car commercial it is, and a couple of other things that you see. It just seems kind of like thrown in there. But when I go back and think, it's like this is a movie where Chadwick Boseman is gone, and I kind of feel it doesn't quite feel right to me that it's just gone so commercial in a way with how they're marketing it, and especially with those first two clips that they dropped that had some of the most cringe dialogue ever. It was a bad move yet again. If you put out a trailer, you want to put something out that is your best work. Your trailer is supposed to make people pay money to sit their butt in a seat to watch the movie. Whether the movie turns out to be good or not, that's not the point. The trailer makes you want to go and see that. Those were not the best moments for those particular trailers. So I'm not sure what it is that they're trying to accomplish with this marketing, which I think is very ham-fisted. I think they're banking a lot on nostalgia, I'll say it, or guilt. You need to go see this because you owe it to Chadwick Boseman's memory to go and see this movie. So I'm not impressed, and actually I'm quite disappointed about the marketing, especially compared to the first Black Panther movie.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made those points, because hearing it also from your experience, and you and I do see a lot of media out there, so we do see a lot of these advertisements and trailers and things that they're throwing at us, just like a lot of the viewers here tonight and those who'll be watching this later on, that I thought that the campaign for it overall was just so poor. And the worst part too is that they're kind of, he's not a completely brand new character, but let's just say they're introducing a character we haven't seen before in live action in this universe, in this manner. And in that presentation, Lorena, we're all going to see this film. We all know we're going to see this film. We almost have to see this film. But, I have to question to myself, what exactly are they trying to do here? And, perhaps there is a tinge of guilt. Perhaps there's a tinge of, they couldn't do maybe what they wanted to do with this film. I'm not quite sure. And Lorena, you and I are going to see this film. We're going to see this film this week. There's going to be millions of us who are going to see this film. This is certainly not a question of people showing up to the box office. We know it's coming out this week. I'm going on Thursday. You're going on Thursday. They have a special, like a double feature.
Yes.
You can see Black Panther first, and then see Wakanda Forever, which I think is some of the best stuff. Like, they should do that all the time. So many people are talking about this film, in particular, the casting and the storyline. And you and I have talked about this, and you just mentioned that obviously the trailers were not quite what we thought they should have been. And one of the things that I noticed, or at least I was hoping to see on my end, was just to see, the wonderful Black men that we saw in Black Panther. And while it is a film that may be incredible, this might be one of the most incredible films ever made? I don't know because I haven't seen it yet. Certainly,
Mhm.
Angela Bassett is, making waves, and a lot of people are talking about her and her impact here. I can't help but wonder how the film is going to be without, what we know. Honestly, Lorena, I think that it's going to be an exciting film. I think we're going to see a lot of the things that are familiar to us that are associated with Wakanda. I think there's going to be a lot of association. There's a bunch of characters we haven't seen. We haven't seen this character. This is Riri Williams, right?
Yes,
Um,
aka Ironheart.
Yes, we have never seen this character in live action before. You talked about some of the scenes that they showed, some of the clips that they released were not quite what I was expecting to see. And you and I share that sentiment. My question is, why would they release something that was, or show us a clip that may not stir anybody to be excited about a film? It seems like such a contradiction to a film that we should be. This should be like the film of the year because of what we've gone through and what we have with these expectations. Um,
Mhm.
it's really kind of unfortunate that. Ooh, I hope my message didn't show up there. It's really kind of unfortunate that that did happen, but I do have to wonder about that. I wonder about the cast. Um, are we ever going to find out what happened to the men of Wakanda? This is something that I question, Lorena, because they didn't just disappear. And we were talking about this last week. I still haven't seen any evidence of these men, these challengers who
Yes.
challenged T'Challa, to be ruler. Um, I'm just curious as to whether this is ever going to be explained in this film. I don't want to see an explanation, Lorena, of them saying, "Well, all the men are gone." Like, what do you think about this?
I if they do that, I would be extremely, extremely disappointed, extremely insulted, also as a viewer, considering what we saw in Black Panther. Now, in Black Panther, it was very even between, I would say, between female characters and male characters, with Black Panther, of course, being the lead character. Then, of course, you had Killmonger, who came up later on. You also had M'Baku as well, along with that one, I keep calling them herdsmen, but, they were also warriors as well. So you had a very, very strong male presence, which made sense given the Black Panther character. Now they're giving us this film called, quote unquote, Wakanda Forever. Most of the advertisement that you've seen has been all of the women in the forefront. You have Shuri, you have the Queen, of course, and then you have, and I'm so freaking bad with names, the head of the Dora Milaje.
Yes.
Those three are in the front, and Mabaku is in the back somewhere. And on the flip side, of course, you have Namor flanked by, it looks like they're two females. So now you're making this film completely female. I have no problem with it being called, quote unquote, Wakanda Forever. And if they want to focus on the women, especially if it's, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here,
No, it's okay.
especially if it's a situation where, like, say, if something temporarily happened to the men, like they cannot get to them, and there's a B plot where they are trying to get back to them, and eventually, that's resolved. I really would not like it if it's just like all the men are gone, or basically all the men are useless, and that's why we're going to make Shuri Black Panther. To me, that spits in the face of T'Challa. It really does. And I don't like that. I don't like this idea that you want to replace a masculine role with someone feminine just to do it.
Yeah, and I think that this could have been done a number of ways where you could have still had men in this film, or at least from what they're indicating and what we've seen, we haven't seen a lot of them. But if we get there and we're surprised that there's a bunch of men like what we were expecting, fighting side by side with
Mhm.
the Dora Milaje, I would be pleasantly surprised and excited for this. But we haven't seen that. certainly not what I was expecting. And also, what about Namor? What about him? Um, when you see this character, Lorena, even the marketing for Namor wasn't quite what I was hoping for. But I mean, what do you think? Do you think they're going to do right by this character? There's been some talk about the character of the way he's portrayed, the
Mhm.
combination of cultures, which I can understand. They're drawing from different cultures to create a look, and that's not so unusual or unexpected. Um,
Right.
but to introduce a character that's supposed to be a major character, a major big deal character, and honestly, I think the actor who plays him looks smoking hot. I think this guy looks great. Okay, so yeah, so it's true.
Mhm.
Yes, it's a man. And he's good looking. So yes, he's smoking hot. I think he's beautiful. I think he has a great physique. He looks strong, and a lot of what they put him in, I think he doesn't even need the decoration on him. But that scene that you were talking about, that clip where they're sort of like on the shore,
Mhm.
it kind of like looked like a campfire on the beach. I wasn't quite sure what we were looking at. And, whatever it is, I sure hope that they give Namor's due, make him as strong and powerful. If anything, what have you been hearing about Namor's depiction, and what do you think when you see the depiction of Namor, at least from what we can see from some of the trailers and pictures?
Mhm. Well, obviously, he's a good-looking man. Okay, we'll put it that way. He is a good-looking man.
Mhm.
From what I've heard from people who've told me about the comics, because I didn't know who Namor was in the comics. So some friends have been filling me in. So I'm like, okay, he's basically this dude where the only team that he is on is his own and for his people. That's it. If you can't help him or his people, I don't have the time for you whatsoever. He's very malevolent. He takes no prisoners. He is not the kind of person that you want to mess with. If he is on your team, you need to watch him like a hawk. Now, with that said, that is not the impression that I got watching this trailer. When M'Baku talks about who he is, he doesn't seem threatened. He looks like he's just saying, there's this dude I know, and yeah, this is what they call him. And he might be a minor irritation. M'Baku did not look impressed. He didn't seem impressed. I would think that if this is someone who's a formidable foe, he is going to talk about that person as if they truly are a threat. And I don't get a sense of urgency from this character, which to me is a disservice. It's a very big disservice. I don't understand. If Namor is supposed to be the big bad, he needs to portray and project that aura that he is the big bad without question. So I really don't know why it is that they didn't go with that angle as they should, because as you and I know, when you see a trailer, if there's a big bad in the trailer, it needs to be very, very ominous. Like, oh, I
Yes.
can't wait to see what happens to this bad guy. With
Mhm.
this, it's just like this dude's coming out from under the water, floating down, doing whatever. I don't know really what's going to happen with this. He kind of just seems like a temporary irritation, let's just say, to the Wakandans. But also to get back to him, this Namor does not even have the backstory that the comic version of Namor does. With this character, it's kind of like a mashup of different Mesoamerican cultures, which I have no problem with. I think that's pretty cool. I actually like how this outfit looks. Ruth Carter,
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah,
man,
he
she
always does
is.
a great job.
She does a great job. And with the original Namor character, his name given to him by his mother means avenging son. He's an Atlantean. They don't go with that. With this, Namor is the name given to him by his enemies.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's a rights thing or however it is. Um, but again, I don't, and we've seen this happen repeatedly. I don't trust Marvel to stick to comic book lore. They do not have a real good track record of doing that. So, like I said, Namor really does not seem like a big bad to me the way he's being portrayed in the trailers. Now, I could see the movie because I know some people are like, you haven't seen the movie, you don't know. I said, well, the trailer is supposed to make you want to see that. The trailer should make it very, very clear
Mhm.
who the antagonist is. Now, if that changes in the movie, okay, that's fine, but you didn't sell it to me the right way. So remains to be seen what happens. I really do hope he turns out to be the big bad because, like I'm saying, the costuming, the way he looks, everything that looks great. But we'll see what happens with him because I right now they're not selling me that he's the big bad with all the marketing right now.
Yeah, it is. Excuse me, it is a concern, and I have something stuck in my throat. But you know, obviously, and for the viewers who are watching this, I'm looking for the men in the film because I love men. So, and I'm sure Lorraine feels the same way. We're
Mm-hmm.
looking for, we enjoy seeing men in these films. So that was something that when we didn't see that, especially after the strong male presence in the last film, it set the alarm up. For me, because I'm going to just keep looking. I'm probably will enjoy the film regardless, but it seems like it could have been a very different film with the men in it if they are um,
Yeah.
excluded. So this is something to think about. Men count, and they do make a difference in a film. And I like I said, you and I are both going to see this, Lorena. We are. I'm excited to go. I think it's going to be a fun day at the movies, but certainly something to think about going forward when they decide to remove certain characters
Mm-hmm.
and that's, we're accepting it. We're not like, well, we're not going to see it. No, we're not saying that. Um, I think we'll be surprised by the story, and it should be pretty fun to watch this. But we're not going to get that closure. And I think that that was something that both you and I feel really
Mm-hmm.
should be in a film like this, considering
Right.
everything that's happened in addition to that. So if they manage to give us that closure somehow, Lorena, I will be pleasantly surprised, and I'll accept that. But I'm still want to see more of the warriors and the challengers who we saw in Wakanda. Those men, they exist. They are somewhere.
Yeah, they are somewhere, and they're going to be missed. I mean, think about it, like say if they made a Wonder Woman movie and it did not have the Amazonians in it, front and center.
Yes. Yes, I think that's a perfect example. And, asking us to accept something like this, it's just not realistic. It's difficult
Mm-hmm.
to fathom. It's difficult, excuse me, to understand how
Mm-hmm.
or why that approach would be taken. But I'm sure there are different reasons
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of these things happen. So, yes, going on to the next topic, Lorena, we shall see how Wakanda will turn out this week.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with it.
Absolutely. The other topic I wanted to talk, so obviously Wakanda is sort of like the biggest thing that everybody's talking about, but I did want
Right.
to mention The Crown, Lorena. This is an international hit series about the royal family, and my goodness, Lorena, this has been an eventful year for the British royal family. I myself am an Anglophile, which means I love everything British, and in my case, it includes the royal family. And of course, we know recently Queen Elizabeth passed away
Mm-hmm.
after, such an incredible length of reign. Now Charles is king. And there were 10 days of mourning. They did a mourning. It was very respectful. It was a remembrance that I thought certainly was something that was befitting a queen, Lorena. This was
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful dedication to her. And something, this series, The Crown, as I mentioned, has been an international hit. It's on Netflix. Everybody who's been on it have won awards, Emmy awards. The show has been lauded for what it's done, and it's made a lot of waves, but it is a dramatization of the British royal family. In particular, Queen Elizabeth, who was alive, they focused on her life a lot, but it is a dramatization, meaning that not everything, every conversation that occurs in the series is what exactly happened, but it's based on real life events. And Lorena, when if this had been 10 or 15 years ago, no one would have had to explain that. I think that, you would just understand that this is about, a dramatization of people who are alive, and not everything in it would be the be all and end all about someone. Why are we seeing situations where that has to be explained quite often nowadays, knowing very well that no film or movie could have everything exact that's happened? What do you think about that?
Wow. I to put it honestly, I think a lot of these people really think that the viewing audiences are stupid. I really do think that. Case in point, we'll bring something up, like say the musical Hamilton. Now, I did not understand why some folks got all up in arms about Hamilton. It does not purport to be history. It's inspired by historical events, which is what they would say when things like this would come out, inspired by, historical events. It is not a documentary on the BBC.
Right.
It's a dramatization. That's what it is, dramatization. They take artistic license because they can. It's not up to, let's say, it's not, the onus is not on the creator of the dramatic series to have their history in check if they're just doing a dramatization. That is on you to go and find out. Because I know when I'm watching The Crown, I'm just like, did that really happen? Did that really happen? And there's some events where at the end of each episode, they will call out the factual thing that happened, and they'll do that. But I just think it's ridiculous that they have to explain that it's a dramatization. It goes on with some quote unquote like problematic movies or television series running disclaimers about that. It's ridiculous, and like I said, I just really think it's an insult to me as a viewer, and an insult to a lot of the viewers out there.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And as I've told you before, I watch a lot of Turner Classic Movies. So my mother goes through probably like 6 or 7 films a day, 365 days of the year. And a lot of the films, they talk about how the actress played it, but the person who they may have been portraying didn't care for it and felt that it was not a good portrayal of them. And so,
Hmm.
this is pretty common, these dramatizations, as you said, throughout history of different people. Um,
Right.
in different situations based on real events, but it's certainly not a documentary, as you've mentioned, which documentary would have, would stick more to the truth of what's happened. And so there's been a lot of controversy. And I'm kind of jumping around on this one only because I clicked on this one first. But honestly, Lorena, this is going to be one of the most controversial seasons for The Crown. You and I did a review of seasons 1 through 4 and a preview for season 5. And this
Hmm.
one is going to be really tough because, it's been over 20 years since Diana unfortunately passed away at the age of 36, which is way too young for anyone to pass away. But it
Hmm.
certainly was very painful to watch what she went through with this divorce, to see what she went through and what Charles went through. My goodness, it was like the whole world was going through this divorce. Lorena, I'm sure you remember this.
I do remember this, the tabloids, is there trouble in paradise, Charles rumored to be, have a mistress, Diana rumored to be, having affairs. The fact that, when I want to say fact, the rumor that Harry's dad wasn't Charles. I mean, it seemed like every other day you would find out something about this marriage was not as picturesque as it was brought to presented to be. And it's kind of like we were actually all going through this divorce at the same time. It was relentless. It was just one of those things where you couldn't help but get caught up on it. Well, some people probably didn't, but it dominated the news cycles over here. And Diana would actually come to the United States a lot more than Charles, if I remember correctly. So she was always, in the press. It was a really sad situation. You could tell that they were just not happy being together at all.
Yeah, it was unfortunate that we had to witness that. And and in the kind of in the heart of maybe not the main thing, but one of the things that happened was that there was this interview, just so that people know, that
Mhm.
Charles and Diana ended up doing a live interview about their marriage. And like I said, Lorena, we witnessed it, but I had never seen anything like this before. This was very different. It was maybe something that I think no one would ever dream of, going ahead and talking about the intimate details of their divorce on the television. This is not something that it's more common now, but at that time, especially who we're talking about, this was really considered not appropriate and not something that anyone should do. And here we were presented with maybe the most famous couple in the world, talking about their
Mhm.
divorce and their marriage. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because obviously it's going to be in this season of The Crown. And a lot of focus has come on Martin Bashir, um, who was the interviewer and who kind of got discredited, unfortunately,
Mhm.
because of his association with this later on. But here I think these are not this is the actors who play the roles. But
Mhm.
Martin Bashir, I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw this interview. And, the fact that of course they had to include it because this season is going to be about Diana, but this is going to be a painful season to watch. I hadn't thought about it this way, Lorena, but there were a lot of unpleasant things that happened during that time. And I think it kind of overshadowed the family to a point where, this was not something they needed to focus on at that point, but it became the main topic. It became the main thing. And, they're talking about how Bashir, was so pivotal in this, and maybe
Mhm.
was kind of found guilty of coercing some of the people in the party or in that circle into divulging more information than they would have done.
Mhm.
He had not done that. And, there was a number of things that came out. But honestly, Lorena, if I had to go through something that was as televised as that, I probably would have had a breakdown. I don't think I could have handled everyone knowing all the intimate details of my life like that. And it was a long interview. It was like maybe an hour and a half, right? They were on for a while. After
Mhm.
Diana did her interview, Charles did one, like a rebuttal interview. And I remember watching it thinking to myself, this is absolutely terrible. This is, if you ever wanted to know what a breakup was like, this was it. This was it. But Bashir talks about, or at least they talk about Bashir and his
Mhm.
role, and kind of like he was brought to stardom bringing Diana and doing this interview. Honestly, Lorena, this is not the type of thing, if I were a investigative reporter, I wouldn't want to be known for this interview. And they talk about how Bashir landed the scoop of the decade, sitting down with Princess
Mhm.
Diana for her only solo feature-length interview, in which she famously said, "There were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," and admitted to her own infidelity. And they talk about how it turned out that the BBC received a BAFTA award for the interview, but then had to
Mhm.
return it when they found out that Bashir had given in fake information. It was just such a mess. It really was something that I find, was kind of disappointing. But um, it also says that Bashir's ambitious actions are part of the documented lineage of ethical malpractice in journalism, but the subterfuge was detected in his case despite apparent progressive strides.
Mhm.
Problems around race persist in our institutions. So that's kind of the thing that I had to wonder about, or at least thought about, in regards to things that happened. And they've talked about how, and a lot of people believe this, and I'm not saying that they're wrong, but a lot of people believe that Diana's death may have been caused by journalistic interference, certainly by people chasing her, them
Mhm.
trying to flee away from being pursued. Um, I certainly didn't think that here there would be this kind of manipulation in this story, but it seems like there was. It seems like this couple could not escape uh, this constant invasion of their privacy. And,
Mhm.
it ended in this horrible tragedy. What do you think about them deciding to put Bashir in there? They didn't have to. They could have just said, it's not going to work out. I can't believe she did this interview. And then they could have left that alone. I personally would not have included the interview. I wouldn't have anybody portraying Bashir at all. I would kind of smooth over that, let it happen off screen. But it seems like they are including that. What do you think about them deciding to put that in there as well?
It's sensationalism. Pure and simple. The Bashir interview is so infamous that I think the writers on The Crown is just kind of like, this is just too juicy to pass up, especially given the action that ratcheted up the strife between Charles and Diana. So do I think it's in good taste to include it? No, I really don't think so. But if you're talking about the drama, and if you're talking about a dramatization based on real events, this interview was a real event. And for some people, they got the confirmation, I'd say so to say, that Diana wasn't happy at all, and just seemed like she would much rather be, on her own. So I don't know, with them including it, it'll be interesting to see how much of it they do include. Is it that they just zoom in on that one particular section where she talks about, there's 3 people in the marriage. So it'll be interesting how focused they are on this interview. I hope they really don't like try to recreate it. I hope there isn't like a whole episode where all they do is just blow by blow by blow every portion of this interview. So we'll see.
We certainly will. And to be honest with you, it's not what I was hoping to see in this series. I admit that I would have preferred, since we already know so much about that, I think I might have preferred to find out a little bit more about what the children were going through. And
Yeah.
while it is respectful at the time that we did not necessarily refer to their kids, they are grown men now with their own families. And I think I would have been somewhat more interested in maybe finding out how the Queen was, since so much of this series focused on Queen Elizabeth, maybe to just keep that focus a little bit more on her dealing with it, which I think they did in the last season, but keep the focus more on her and how at some point she now had to take over a little bit more of the parenting, if you will, or more of a matriarchal role than ever before with Diana's passing. And I think that might have been a very respectful way to do this. So there are a lot of actors who are also saying that there are things in there that they don't care for, but also real life people, including John Major, who was a former British Prime Minister. So there are a lot of interesting comments about this series, as would be expected. But this one kind of shocked me. Part of the article was kind of exclaiming that he sort of like had an outsider status before he did this interview. And, I guess perhaps he wasn't, or may not have been allowed to do as many interviews, but this is what catapulted him into, being one of the most famous interviewers in the world, honestly.
Yeah.
And we have another super chat. Let's see if we can
Do
just find it.
we?
So generous, you guys.
Yeah.
Kevin Frazier, thank you so much. That is so kind of you for $4.99 super chat.
Yes.
We so appreciate it. Kevin Frazier says, "Y'all rock. Thanks for all you do." I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. I love to read the super chats. Can't wait for Friday. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever in IMAX. Kevin, are you seeing both? You're seeing both of them? Kevin, you rock, Kevin.
Wow, you're doing that, huh?
That's like 5 or 6 hours, Kevin. Oh my gosh, you are going to have such a great time in the theater, Lorena. Oh my goodness, you are so lucky, Kevin. We know you're going to have a wonderful time seeing those movies together. Gee, I wish they would keep doing things like this, Lorena, where we see films in tandem like that. Certainly, so much fun, when you can enjoy a film like that. But certainly it's something to think about going forward. And so The Crown, guys, season 5 premieres this week. I'm going to be doing watch parties. I think, Lorena, you might be joining me on some of them.
Yes.
And so, guys, do look at our channels, our community pages for when we are going to be showing those watch parties. We haven't figured out exactly what time, but we will be doing those. So The Crown will be covered. You guys know I couldn't help but do The Crown. So yes, believe it or not, and this should not be a surprise, Lorena, there's a little bit more Cavill news. And, I think really, yeah. Oh, yeah. What I love about what I saw, and I sure hope I have this still here. Yes, here it is the idea that it seems like something wonderful has happened in regards to Henry Cavill. Now, he never, ever went anywhere. He was always here with us, but things seem very different for him. Like almost as if, he's coming out of his, not that he was in a shell. I'm not quite sure how to describe it. Maybe he had, some kind of non-disclosure agreement. He couldn't talk. There could be a number of different things. But Lorena, this interview that he did, it's a video interview. And I don't think I'm showing it, but there's a video interview that you can go on and see where Cavill talks about his role during hiatus. It's an additional interview. He says there are things out of your control, and we know that for an actor. And he also talks about how, being able to announce his return was very important. The interview is under deadlines, things that light your fuse video series. And so it's an actual video. I can't show the video, but it's a video interview. Anybody can go on Deadline, look under things that light my fuse, and you will see Henry Cavill talk about the transformative power that Gladiator had on him, and how he could see sort of the potential in himself as an actor. Guys, I am paraphrasing. I'm certainly not putting words into Henry Cavill's mouth. I'm just going on and saying what I perceive him to say. And what's so funny about this interview, Lorena, is that during the video, when you watch it, Cavill's looking right at you. Like he's looking at you. And I'm like, oh my God, Henry Cavill's looking. It is like so emotional seeing Henry Cavill this way. I enjoyed it so much. But I think there was like a different flair to this. I did get a chance to see Enola Holmes Part 2 in Lorena. The film is much better with Henry Cavill in it. He has more of a presence than the first one. It's almost like I'm not going to say it's a renaissance of Henry Cavill, but it felt like this cavalcade of things coming out of Henry Cavill, like these feelings and emotions, I think maybe that he's always had. It's just that we were kind of like in this dour situation for 2 years. And, we couldn't really get a chance to hear how everybody was feeling. Honestly, the thing that I love about it is how much he's keeping us informed. And Lorena, this has been something we've always been wanting from stars in a sense. And I'm not asking them to give us 24 hours a day. None of us are asking that. We know they have to have lives. They have to things. They already work hellish hours, right? They work terrible hours. They have to go through all those costume changes. There's all sorts of stuff involved. But honestly, this one, I got to tell you, it was just nice to feel that he wanted us to know these things. He talked about the importance of his family and his parents in the type of person and actor he wants to be. There were so many wonderful things about it. It was a great interview. So I did just want to mention it because he wants everyone to know he is communicating with us. And it seems like every now and then we get this another snippet about Cavill. He is so happy and proud. I think that this positivity that we're feeling, Lorena, is going to have a very good effect over the fandom. And I feel like I'm repeating the name of my channel, but it really completely unintentional. It was completely unintentional. I'm saying that good vibe going forward. I'm liking this. Do you notice any difference in Henry Cavill?
I do. I do. We'll say we'll wind it back to when a certain project was announced about Superman being race swapped, and J.J. Abrams was going to be heading up that project, and I believe Ta-Nehisi Coates was going to be writing the script, and supposedly this is pre-Zaslav, okay, pre-Zaslav era, that this is where they were going. I remember feeling extremely heartbroken because for me, I mean, so Christopher Reeve is the GOAT.
Yes.
Nothing's going to touch that.
Yes.
But as far as I'm concerned, Henry Cavill is Superman. And they made that announcement on Henry Cavill's birthday. That's the other thing that happened. And I think interviews with him after that, he just seemed kind of, and obviously disappointed, because basically he put his heart and soul into it. I mean, I've loved Henry Cavill ever since The Tudors. Seeing him in Superman, granted, I can't stand Batman versus Superman. I'm sorry, that movie freaking sucks. But I love seeing Henry Cavill in that. So his attitude then was kind of like, okay, there's other things I need to focus on. I'm really disappointed, but you can feel that undercurrent of disappointment. Now, contrast that with the first video he put out after Black Adam came out. And he's just very exuberant and excited about his role going forward with DC. So we've definitely seen the gamut of him not looking, all that happy about finding out we're not going with that vision of Superman. But of course, all those executives are now gone from the WB, and now he is back to being Superman. And I do love the positive energy coming from him. As a fan, I'm beyond happy that he is back as Superman. It's all I freaking wanted. And I'm not really a DC person, but I'm a DC normie. And that's just what I wanted. I did not want another actor being cast as Superman. Makes no sense. You need to stick with Henry Cavill. So I'm glad that's where they're going.
I'm happy as well. And I'm glad to see these actors in a positive light, feeling great about things. Clearly this is something, and he talks about, you hold on very gently, not too tight, things out of your control. And clearly what he's saying is that, he wanted this role desperately. And, he's such a gentleman. Oh my goodness, this man is such a gentleman. But his words speak volumes. I think that it's important for us to see situations like this because, by example, we all have disappointments like this where we are expecting something to happen and we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and it seems like it's not ever going to come. So I think, he set an example of, look, he realized that it's just something that's out of your control, and, you have to treat it with kid gloves. Just be very careful with how much it affects your life. Certainly a very good lesson, a good lesson from honestly for anyone regarding anything. And we have another super chat. Hey, Jamin D, thank you so much for a $10 super chat.
Thank you.
Wow, that is so generous. Thank you, Jamin D. I so appreciate it. Jamin D says, oh boy, amazing, gorgeous ladies are rocking the stream this evening. Thank you. The spice is flowing. Rock on. Yeah. That's right, Jamin.
Thank you.
It's flowing. And yes, it is getting hot in here, Jamin D. Thank
I'm
you
hearing
so
the song in my head.
That's right. It's getting hot in here. Woohoo! And Jamin D, thank you for your generosity. You've always supported me and Lorena and the channel. We appreciate it. So nice to see you this evening. Yes. And thank you to everybody who's generous super chats to the show. It is so appreciated. I certainly have to say, Lorena, it is such a pleasure. This community has been so kind and generous to us. So we do appreciate you and everything you guys do for us. We certainly do. Now the next topic, Lorena, which I absolutely have to talk about, and it's not there has been, I talked about the excitement with Cavill, and we kind of needed this because I've been seeing articles that'll say this is the worst award season ever, or this is like the most dour. This is we haven't made any money. This is just an absolute, and it is true. I'm not saying it isn't true. Things could be better. But it is very hard to read that stuff in print, Lorena, and I don't envy the people from the trades who have to write all this stuff. It must be hard for them to say this stuff. They don't want to see that. No one wants to see that. We want to see a successful entertainment industry. That's what we're here for, and we want these production teams to go out with success after they finish something, to have pride in what they've done. So recently, Deadline had their Contender Deadline. It's like a one-day film festival, and what I liked about it, truth be told, Lorena, is the approach about it, because what they decided to do, Lorena, is that they had some very specific films that they focused on. It's a one-day event, and it says that in New York, underway with She Said, Till, which has gotten a lot of chatter. Till has gotten a lot of chatter recently. The Good Nurse, and of course RRR, which has been kind of the breakout film of the year.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Has been such an impactful film. Certainly, this Deadline Contenders event, which is just a one-day thing in New York, and they talk about the lowdown on some of our favorite Oscar season possibilities, and they talk about the different films. But there's one article that I kind of want to show you, because you and I have talked about RRR. They talk about the Sidney Poitier films, Causeway, White Noise, a bunch of other pretty important films that have come out this year. But I did want to just share with you, obviously, since they were talking about RRR, and as to be expected, the gentleman who directed RRR was there, and I did just want to show you what he said while he was there. And this is why events like this are so important. This guy, and Lorena, I'm not being sarcastic to assume that he lives in India. The film is made in India. It's an Indian film. So certainly what I'm saying when I say he's in India or he's overseas, that he may not sort of like be down the block, so an event like this where he can come out to New York, let's say, is very important for everyone to see. They'll write up an article like this that you and I are discussing, right?
Yes.
And this is so important in the sense of the film. And the director, S.S. Rajamouli, says that Braveheart was a big influence for his Indian epic RRR. Now, honestly, Lorena, you and I have seen this film.
Yes.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So I apologize. I hope I don't get hit for that. But the point is, and I thought there might have been just one photo of the gentleman, but that's okay. I'm going to stay away from that because we're almost done with the show, Lorena. I just had to read it here. RRR filmmaker S.S. Rajamouli made his epic film for an Indian audience, but he has been godsmacked by the global resonance of the film, which has racked up more than 132 million worldwide, and I'm assuming that's US dollars, while ranking as India's third highest grossing movie of all time. RRR has made more than 11 million in the US. That's a bunch of money for an Indian film, Lorena.
A ton of money, considering it didn't open up in many theaters in the US and not for very long. Most of the buzz about RRR was when it got dropped onto Netflix, and that's when it just spread like wildfire. So it may seem like it's a small amount of money, but again, not in very many theaters at all, and not there for very long. And we're still talking about this film.
We are still talking about this film. The Contenders panel at Deadline's Contenders, as I said, it's a one-day film festival. They kind of have a very, condensed schedule. But he had, I thought it was important that he got a voice here. He said, we started getting the representation on social media. And during the panel at Deadline's Contender, he says, then the critics started liking it. And then the viewers started talking about it, meaning you and myself and practically the entire YouTube community. I know that Culture and Paulie were instrumental, and Chris Gore were instrumental in talking about this.
Yes, it's all his fault.
And he says, this is very, very important. It says the Telugu language action epic starring Ram Charan and N.T. Rama Rao Jr. is the only non-English film to trend globally for 10 consecutive weeks on Netflix. It has never happened with any other film, says Ram Jamuli. I'm still trying to figure it out. In regards to the story hitting directly with its homeland audience across all groups, the director says everyone knows about them. And the key to RRR is the music, which the director and co-writer credits as the emotional flow. He also credits the influence of other Indian epics, as well as a lot of inspiration from Western movies, being Braveheart. I like that film a lot, the way he enhances the drama before the action. While it isn't selected as India's official Oscar entry, it's going for big awards push. And they will, he says that he will next direct an untitled feature starring Mahesh Babu in a production set to start in the spring. But I did just want to mention this, Lorena, because of the impact that RRR has had. Deadline and these contenders feel that it is relevant. You know, I don't know if it hasn't been entered as the official for India. I don't know what the rules are, Lorraine. Like, I don't know whether they can slide in some other way or whether there's a wild card or what the rules are. But Lorena, this is a film that I would imagine could be nominated at the very least. If anything, could have been nominated for, you know, an international category. I don't even know what to think. It was so extraordinary. You and I watched the film. We did a watch party on your channel. This was just such an incredible representation of what is possible in a film. And of course, the music was beautiful. Everything about it was amazing. What do you think about them deciding to invite the director of RRR? After all, like you said, you know, the number of screens were not great. It was on Netflix, and yet it was still getting a lot of chatter. What do you think about them bringing, you know, the director here to talk about this incredible film?
I think it's amazing because out in LA, SS Rajamouli did, I want to say, like I guess like a publicity tour, so to speak, where at the, I believe at the LA County Museum of Art, LACMA, they ran like a trifecta of his movies, Bahubali 1, Bahubali 2, and RRR. Also, he got signed by CAA out in Hollywood. And I had to kind of explain that to some of our Indian viewers who were like, that's basically his ticket to Hollywood to give more visibility to the types of films and like opens up all kinds of doors, you know, for him to get in. So he has representation in Hollywood. Well, obviously New York didn't want to be left out. So they brought SS Rajamouli there because he is literally the hottest director you probably haven't heard of right now. So I think that was very smart of them to bring him to New York because LA pretty much knows who he is, but bringing him to New York just opens that up too. So I'm really glad that they did this because this film deserves so much more publicity than it has. And if anything, I want to say probably why the Oscars are kind of giving it the cold shoulder a little bit is because it puts a lot of these Oscar films to shame with how good it is, from costuming to cinematography to the music to telling, you know, just telling the story. It really is an amazing watch. And I freaking want it on DVD. Daggone it. I want a 4K. They need to step it up.
No, we're going to get it on 4K and we're going to get him to sign our copy. That's what we're going to get. I'm going to get that director to sign my copy because this film was just so remarkable. And, you know, I think it is very interesting. They were talking about award season and how dour things are. But these films, a lot of the films they had at Contenders, New York for Deadline were amazing films that had a lot of chatter. You know, historically significant films like Till, which I never thought they'd make a film about, but they did. Certainly we're seeing things. I think that the future is bright. There is is a space for film.
Mhm.
And it just was exciting to see. I wish I couldn't get his photograph. They had a picture of him, but then it went to the video. But they had a picture of him kind of like sitting down, talking about what inspired him. And it's funny because we also talked about what inspired Henry Cavill. Before we go, I think Braveheart was a film that inspired me to look into entertainment. Lorena, do you have a film that inspired you before we finish for today?
Wow, inspired. I'm gonna have to say The Empire Strikes Back.
Excellent choice indeed. Certainly one of the best films ever made. Lorena, thank you for joining me today. Ladies,
Welcome. I love being here.
well, it's wonderful having you. And Lorena, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Twitter, and of course, you can find me on YouTube, where I do various live streams and videos related to pop culture, science fiction, Indian movies, and anime as well.
Wow. And of course, you also are an expert in the theme parks, guys. Also check out Lorena's channel for her theme park live streams. You want to
You.
know what's going on in the park right now? Check out Lorena's channel. She goes to all of them. She goes into the stores. She is not just there one time. It's like she's there for the morning and evening events. Certainly something you want to check out. My favorite one that you just did recently, I think you already know what it is. It's that wonderful gingerbread, which they were
Oh, it
constructing.
smells so good.
God, it looks
Woo!
so good at the Grand Floridian, guys. Certainly, there's a lot of wonderful things going on Lorena's
Mhm.
channel. So do like and subscribe to her channel. And guys, please like and subscribe to my channel. I know we're on the Post-Geek Singularity, but like and subscribe to Positive Fandom, please. Check out Sunday Brunch on Sundays. Certainly do, Lorena and I will continue to stream on our other projects as well. Toxic Male Appreciation, one of my favorites, as well as on Midnight's Edge and on the 1/6 Scale Man Network. So do check me out on all of those places, guys. I hope you all are well out there, guys. Certainly do appreciate all the super chats tonight, the support of
Mhm.
all of you who came by. Tom Jr. Jackson, we are all goof people. Um, and just wherever you are in the galaxy, whatever you are doing, always remember to please be kind, guys. Take care. Bye.